Rolling.
Oh, go back, go back, go back. Okay, so our presentation is on situational depression in adolescence.
Okay, so here's some background information. What is situational depression? Situational depression is a short-term stress-related type of depression that can develop after you experience a traumatic event or series of events. So who are adolescents? Adolescents are any person between the ages 10 and 19.
What are the contributions to situational depression in adolescence?
Why does this matter? Teens often feel down when things that really impact their lives. It can be minor or major, but it causes them to change the way they do life, their routines and their habits.
So our thesis is adolescents can experience situational depression due to social media, family, dating, community, and school. They are all contributions that lead to teen depression and drastic change in their lives.
So the first contribution is social media. So with social media, teens lack social skills. Electronic communication through social media is causing a lack in these social skills. So people are connecting with peers on social media rather than in person, and digital relationships are being replaced with face. Digital relationships are taking the places of face-to-face interactions. Social skills are something that is needed for job, interaction with others, and building and maintaining relationships. The second one is acceptance and fear of missing out. So in order for teens to feel as if they fit in or are accepted, they feel the need to compare themselves. Girls lack self-esteem, comparing themselves to high-profile images who seem to be prettier, thinner, more popular, and rich. So in a study by Dr. Hamlet, he says that following celebrities and influencers who use makeup and hot-shot pictures can cause issues with self-confidence. Posting only their best moments and positive moments is another way that depression can be caused by social media, as they only see the good of someone's life and not the bad. People view the people on social media as perfect and tend to feel left out. In a study by Oscar Wyerbar, PhD, who is a professor at the University of Michigan, he says that the more the platforms are used, the more social comparisons happen. With the fear of missing out, the biggest issue is that people are not being included by people they have social relationships with. So for example, when your friends go out as a group and you're not invited, you tend to feel like you're missing out because you weren't invited to go along with them. Amy Somerville, PhD, a professor at University of Miami, said that needed for inclusion and social interactions are now ranked aside to our basic needs of life. A sense of acceptance from comments, likes, and notifications are a way that social media contributes to like you feeling accepted, which can also lead to depression. And then lastly, non-healthy activities. The mental and physical health of teens is affected negatively as they choose to engage in social media activity rather than healthy activity. So there's no engagement, which means there's no sense of accomplishment or learning new skills. Sleep deprivation can lead to depression, which can also worsen by social media. In a study by Dr. Bumbrick, he says that social media affects sleeping. You plan to stay on social media for about 5 minutes, and then that 5 minutes turns into 50 minutes. With unhealthy activities, bullying also worsens. Secrets and false information spreads really, which can lead to devastating results. Jordan Young, which is the co-author in the Journal of Social and Clinical, did a study with 143 undergrads at the University of Pennsylvania. In group 1, they were limited their social media to only one time, 10 minutes per day per platform. So that means that they can only look at Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat for 10 minutes per day. And the results were that the group that was limited had less depression and less symptoms of depression when they were reduced their time.
Okay, so the second contribution is dating. Some adolescents have idealistic views about relationships, and since they have those early irrational expectations, you feel disappointed when they're realistic of their relationship doesn't make those expectations that they expected. One study from the U.S. Department of Health and Services found more relationships progress differently than expected. The more girls experience more mental health, such as severe depression and even suicide attempts. Youth are still developing the sense of self and their dislikes, likes, and values. And peer pressure doesn't make it better. It actually worsens it. And the younger adolescents are harmed by it more than the older. They They might not be ready for what their partner or friends want them to do, but they do it to make themselves fit in, or their partners feel good. This can lead to risky behavior and affect the minds of adolescents.
The third contribution is education with overbearing workloads, forceful interaction, and bullying. So what I mean by overbearing workloads, students who are transitioning from middle school or from a school that has more of a light flow workload tend to find it difficult to shift to a high school, especially high schools that give out work that's designed to prepare you for college. And according to an article by John Brooker, it's more common for the average high school to have the same anxiety levels as a psychiatric patient in the 1950s, and the excessive pressure on a student to succeed is what plays a big role in that. Secondly, forceful interactions. It mainly impacts students who consider themselves introverts. Introverts find it either hard to socialize with others or prefer a life of solitude, and they're forced to interact with students at the expense of their grades, so they really have no choice in that. And bullying, which is more of a widespread issue that can happen in different places. There are three main types of bullying, which is verbal, physical, and cyberbullying, and all of them can impact a person equally, and are all capable of leading to depression. This can cause students to focus less on their schoolwork and have a large impact on their mental health in the long run. Understood?
Oh, the impact of your family. So when I mean the impact of your family, I'm going to be talking about the negative impact, because when talking about or discussing situational depression and on your family environment, it's focused more on the negative and hostile environment. So lack of comfort during stress may decrease self-esteem. In an article by Alloy, he's a Google scholar, researcher, and author, he talks about how one of the roles of a parent is to provide comfort to their child during times of stress and need. And with withdrawing parent support, you aren't able to do that, and you're not able to rely on your parents like you need to. It causes stress levels to rise, and it causes mental states to decrease, and which decreases your self-esteem as well, and which also leads to vulnerability to emotional stress and depression. In this case, situational depression. Biological factors also play a big role in that as well. In an article by Goodman and Gottlieb, he found that negative family environments contribute to situational depression, and especially for biological factors. So if your parents have had depression as a child, you are at risk of getting it as well, especially if in your childhood you were put into stressful situations that caused you to have like decreased mind state. So you are at risk, high risk of getting situational depression as well. One of our solutions is family therapy. So one of the factors that contributed to it was withdrawing family support. So maybe you could go together as a family and discuss what you guys need to work on or whatever. It could help potentially, but it's not guaranteed to help, as it may not work, or your family is just not in a state where you can all come together and discuss your problems and what you need to work on.
Learning social skills. You could branch out and engage with other people. Being around other people can help you become more social, more comfortable with talking and discussing different things with a different group of people. And then positive peer relationships. Being in relationships, well, not just like boyfriend and girlfriend, but friendships that also like are building you up, self-esteem wise and confidence wise.
So limitations, you might not be ready to open up and talk about what you faced, and you can't prevent situational depression from happening, because it can cause from like losing a family member, and nobody's life is perfect, and everyone goes through situational depression at one point in time in their life, so you can't prevent it.
In conclusion, situational depression is temporary but can cause a dramatic change in your life. It can have a lifetime effect depending on how you solve your issue. You shouldn't go through it alone. Open up and express how you feel.
Exposure to community.
All right. What did you have for the official time count for that?
9:47.
All right, come back up. Got questions for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking over there.
Wait, Kennedy,
Oh, we still
you
recording.
Those are
have
your
a whole
questions.
other person though.
No, we
We
don't.
have one more person. So,
If she don't come under, then we don't. She's not doing it.
all right, so my
But
first
if she does
question,
come, you have to think about her.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
First
if she comes,
question
we're
is
not
for
going to talk
Kennedy.
as much. We only talk that much because she's not.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
some more time than last year, so
Okay.
she wasn't here. But we'll, I mean.
All right, let's go ahead and do the questions, so you have this all on tape to be able to study it. My first question is for Kennedy. Kennedy, what's an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that your team decided to exclude from your presentation, and why?
Okay, so initially, we were going to include clinical depression, but then we found that that doesn't necessarily have to be put into our presentation. It would just be like more of a comparison to what situational depression was, but that's not what we really needed in our presentation to make it stronger. So we decided to kind of cast that aside.
Excellent. Okay, my next question is for, let me go to Aiyanna's. Aiyanna, what was the strongest counter argument to the solutions or conclusions that your team came up with?
I feel like the strongest counter argument for one of our solutions was that family therapy is not always guaranteed to work. Because in some situations, depression can be long term, and therefore it will not result in a conclusion or a solution.
Okay. Okay, that's Mariah's. Let's get rid of that one. Let's go to Morgan. Can you describe how the content of this team presentation was changed as a result of your group discussions?
So originally, in our papers, we all included our own solutions to our own lens that we focus on. So mine was social medias, others were education, relationships, and other things. So instead of including all of our solutions that we found in our research, we just condemned it into the three main solutions, which focus on every point. Instead of making it as narrow as we did in our paper, we just broadened it and made it a whole paper, presentation-wide solution. So the solutions that we put in the presentation were solutions that all affected all of our contributions, but it wasn't individualized how it is in our paper.
Thank you. And then my last one is Jamesha's question. Jamesha, having finished your project, what, if anything, do you consider to be a gap in your team's research that if you addressed it, it would make you feel more confident about your team's solutions?
We have left out the symptoms of situational depression. We really didn't talk about it. We don't talk about the causes. So I feel like we would have talked about that more. It could have made our conclusion stronger, and we could have had like more solutions and stuff.
Thank you very much. Yay, good job, good job. I'm turning